are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello, my brothers and sisters in cinema, and welcome to the Church Horror Sanctum podcast, where we'll be congregating to discuss all things horror. I'm your high priest, Jay.
I'm one of your co-hosts, John.
I'm another one of the co-hosts, Kellen.
And I'm the dead last caboose co-host, TJ.
That's what happens when we go in alphabetical order. So, welcome. We started the church Facebook group to help with the community and join a lot of like-minded individuals to come together and just talk about horror. We were all kind of members in other horror groups. They were a little iffy at times with some of the criteria. So John and I were thinking, like, what if we just start our own? And I'm a very impatient person. So naturally, I just went ahead and did it. And I text him like, oh, hey, guess what? Here we are. We're close to 300 members, I think. But I think it's a good time. People are sharing, participating, which is always great. So naturally, we decided to do what was next and start a podcast.
As you did.
And I'm sorry, I have a cough. But so we decided to start this church podcast. And what'd you say?
It's COVID.
It's not COVID. That's everybody thinks you have COVID if you have one little cough.
I thought you said it was scurvy. I was like, is he like a 1600s pirate?
No
It's the
comment
Black
there.
Plague. It's the Black Lung Pop.
My peg leg you cannot see. But so anyways, we decided to naturally progress to a podcast where we can sit down and talk a movie, a genre, an actress, an actor, many different things. But with all that being said, we were talking about what should our very first episode be about. And after we discussed it a little bit, I think we all kind of gravitated towards the same film. I like film because it makes me sound fancier.
Or film for the fancy.
Cinema.
But we all went to a movie that I consider God tier movie, not only in the horror genre, but in general. And that was 1978's Halloween. So we all sat down, watched it again, some of us for the 100th time. And we're going to start there. TJ, I'm going to let you lead off so I can get some beverages inside of me. So
Yes. Let's bless you, my child. We will get that coughing demon out of you. Okay.
Lordy.
Yes, so 1978, John Carpenter's technically third feature film after Dark Star was a film school project, and Assault on Precinct 13 in 1976, I believe, 2 years before. That's actually what Irwin Yablans first saw and made him want to go after John to do this project. They had a concept, apparently. And there's some different perspectives on whether they had a concept already to do something with babysitter murders, but then there's some books and things say kind of they just wanted to do something around Halloween, and then they picked John Carpenter, who was dating Deborah Hill at the time, and they kind of put it together. Believe what you want to believe, but it come together. I think it only had a $320,000 budget.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is for inflation. That's been before I was born. But actually, what's interesting is they went back. So it's like a solid 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
But they went back in 1981 when they shot Halloween 2. And they totally filmed Halloween 2, and then they were just going to start releasing Halloween to the television markets. Back in those days, they didn't have near as many spots for commercials, so they had to film 11 extra minutes for the TV version. which has some added scenes that are mostly just filler, except for a kind of interesting courtroom scene. But they had to do that to pad because they used to only show like 20 minutes commercials back in the day. I wish that was still a thing.
Right.
For a 2-hour film. Yeah, so there's several different versions of this film, but I still think the theatrical version is the director's cut because John Carpenter only took this project only getting paid $10,000 if he got final cut and he got his name above the title. So that's why we have John Carpenter's Halloween.
John Carpenter's everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Every movie. Yes.
Yeah, I think you guys would all agree it's probably top 5, if not the #1 horror movie in all your lists. Like, I know it's something that's very recency bias, has a lot to do with it, but every time, like, the natural answer is like, hey, what's your favorite horror movie? It's like Halloween. Like, it's pretty close to perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, it's been my favorite since I was a kid. It actually used to scare me as a really young kid, and there's very few movies that ever really have done that. Of course, after you desensitize and you see it over 100 times, literally, not so much, but you appreciate those memories. But direction, I mean, John Carpenter, one of the great directors, and a guy that stayed in genre films. It's my personal favorite horror film.
It gives me a lot of nostalgia vibes too. Like today it was 49 degrees when I left for work, and it just, it felt good. I watched Halloween again today just to, have it fresh, and it just brings back a special time for me when I was young, and it scared the crap out of me too. The hedges scene, the clothesline, even the closet scene towards the end where, he's trying to get Jamie Lee out of there. Like, those are all terrifying. Like, we're more desensitized now, so it's not quite the same. But then it was, like, you check those closets where you go to bed every night. Boogeyman was there. He's somewhere in that house, and he's going to get you. He's in the clothesline. My grandmother had a clothesline. I'm like, I'd be eyeballing that. And I'm like, But you, John, you think is it in your top 5?
I actually think I can bottle the scariness of Halloween. I'm going to play this, and hopefully we don't get dinged for a 5-second thing.
There you go. The sting.
That's all it is. The sting. Like, you hear that, you're immediately terrified.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched it yesterday. I had a lot of observations on it that I had not really noticed before. I mean, as far as the behind the scenes, we could definitely get into that. But just as a film, first thing I noticed that at the beginning of the movie, spoilers, I know it's a 44-year-old movie, when Judith goes upstairs with a boyfriend to do the nasty, it is 90 seconds between them walking to the stairs up and him coming down and saying, I'll call you. Or she says, will you call me? He goes, yeah. 90 seconds. So
pump chump.
Super fast.
It happens to all of us, right, Kellen?
She's still.
No idea what you're talking.
I also noticed that in the beginning scene, when Michael walks outside and he's got the knife, the infamous scene where he's holding it and his parents find him. I don't know why I noticed this, but the father looks at him and they go, Michael? And the father looks concerned. The mother, if you watch her, she looks like she's checking out at Kroger. Like, she just looks totally bored. She's just like sitting there with like a blank look on her face. It's like, I don't know why. I never noticed that, but that was a really weird choice of acting.
Well, that's where Rob Zombie comes in to explain it to us years later. Like,
right.
Yeah, she has her hands in her pockets the whole time, and she just looks totally uninterested.
Oh, definitely. I noticed also that Myers, every time Michael is driving, if you'll notice, he's a very good driver. He pays attention to the road. Even the scene where he's driving by Loomis, and Loomis is in front of the hardware store. He's meeting Sheriff Brackett, and Michael's turning. You actually can look in the car, and you can see Michael turn to check the road to make sure traffic is okay.
Good job. Yeah, who taught him that? Like, that was a question I always had. Like, who taught him how to do that?
Well, you don't really have good peripheral vision in those masks. I don't know if you've ever tried to drive in a mask. Not that I have.
Right.
Yeah, never, ever.
And the big thing I noticed in the movie watching it again, I think, was do not close a door in this movie. Never shut a door in this film, because any door you shut will not open again. Every door they shut in this movie, in a house, in a closet, anywhere, it's like the only doors that open back up are the car doors. So I don't know if that was intentional. I'm sure it was, but you close a door, you're not opening it. So yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, like Annie getting called in the laundry thing that's for some reason not a part of your house. I guess that was a 70s thing.
Yeah.
You know what? When I watched it again today, I think the creepiest, scariest part in the entire thing is when Loomis is going to the hospital and all the patients are outside in the dark and in the rain and just like barely lit up. To me, that's 100% terrifying. Because if I was in that situation, that's the one I would be scared of. A masked killer with a knife, fine. But dozens of mental patients in the dark and the rain, no thank you. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that is terrifying. And one of them was Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah.
And his athletic ability, jump on the car, $6 million man, music.
Yeah, that is very similar.
Killen, did you watch it today to catch up?
I did actually watch it, and I went about taking notes. I got online and did some research, but I didn't want to do like the typical kind of facts that most people would look for. I was looking for more obscure or more weird facts. First of all, I mean, like you said, it's obviously in most horror fans' top 5 at least. And some of the aspects of it, I mean, there's a lot of current horror movie tropes that born in the 70s horror franchises, especially like the final girl. Jamie Lee Curtis is considered one of the first final girls. The appearing and disappearing, he's behind the bushes and then he's gone. He's behind the bed sheets and then he's gone. Even at the end when his body disappears after being shot, falling out of the second story window, a lot of that stuff carries on into movies now. I mean, even like Scream and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that we see now as being kind of kitschy or cheesy was all born out of these classic horror films. But I will point out the one thing I noticed, and I noticed it before, but it never really hit until I was watching it with intent, like today. The scene where he goes in to kill Linda, and he's wearing Bob's glasses and the bed sheet like a ghost. Hilarious. I don't know that it was meant to be, but the fact that he had the forethought to put on the glasses to convince her that it was Bob. I mean, funny, but then you also think that's kind of terrifying that there's this psychopathic man hell-bent on murder. His only sole purpose in life is murder. And he has the wherewithal to trick this girl in the bed when he didn't have to. He could have just he's a giant man. He picked up her boyfriend and pinned her to the wall with a chef's knife, or pinned him to the wall with a chef's knife. He could have just walked in and then murdered her.
Yeah.
But the fact that he puts on his glasses,
a little pizzazz,
and goes in there wearing. Yeah.
What they don't show you before that scene is the 15 minutes that Michael was around looking for scissors to cut the eye holes out of that sheet.
That is like an unintentionally hilarious scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, though. Like, I love that. And like you said, like when we're watching that originally, we don't think anything about it. But when you're like paying more attention, you're like, when did he have time to do this? Like, what is going on? It's like when I watched Pumpkinhead and realized he knew how to take the chain off of a motorbike, and then he's like holding it, dangling it, like taunting the guy, like, who taught this demon how to do these things? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So someone taught him how to drive, someone taught him how to sew and fix clothing. He had to find a bed with those sheets to take them off, or they were dirty, which just makes it even funnier. If you put a different music behind that, it is a hilarious scene, like from Scary Movie or something like that. Like some Benny Hill music, and walk around the sheet with the glasses.
Well, he's definitely smart that he kills her with the phone cord, because the scene directly before that, he obviously doesn't have his knife because he leaves Bob pinned to the wall.
Yeah.
So it would be
good writing.
Yeah, it would be easy for him to just go up there and stab her, but under the context of what happened. So I guess, yeah, in the time where he realized he didn't have a knife, he had to come up with a new plan to kill, and that was to dress like a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, he's very stunted. He's like if you think about it, and they play on this in the newer films, but he's a 6-year-old boy in the body of a 21-year-old who's homicidal. So he's playful,
Aren't we all?
but he's right. Essentially, yes. It's I think that, but it is funny. That definitely goes to like he definitely likes playing with things in the film. Even when he stabs Bob, he stabs him and he does the infamous head turn. It's like he's watching his work.
Yeah.
I think even in the new movies they say it's like he's a cat. He's like observing his prey as he pins it. So
the Nightman. I have to pause for a second. You're wearing a Scott Stapp Creed shirt from Scream 3.
Represent.
It is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely beautiful. I was reading, I'm like, what if? Like, that is beautiful.
That's great.
So since we mentioned the phone cord around the neck, I thought something that we could all share is like our favorite kills from the film, and mine has been spoiled by Kellen, but I love when he's wearing the sheet and the glasses and he uses the phone cord. Like that's PJ Souls. That's probably my favorite kill of the entire movie. Which ones were you guys' favorite kill?
I think I like the pre-kill. I don't like the kill as much with the sheet. I like the playfulness of the sheet and the, cutting out the eye holes, wearing the glasses, pretend to be Bob. But the actual kill I think I like the most is where he kills Bob and just lifts him up. He shows this, superhuman strength to lift this guy up and then just pins him and then just looks at him like a little puppy dog, which I think Nick Castle said that he was patterning that after watching his dog. When he'll say something to him he doesn't understand and he just kind of bobs his head back and forth, And
that's probably how he would act in real life, because he like, yeah. How about you, Kellen?
Yeah, the Bob one's probably my favorite just because it's so short, but it's short and to the point, and like I said, it shows this ability that he has, maybe superhuman. The first kill, when he kills, what's her name? Annie in the car. I noticed watching it again today that he strangles her for like a solid minute. And she's just gasping and kicking, and then he pulls the knife out and slits her throat, and there's 0 blood. Just real quick. So I kind of lean towards that because, again, it's kind of comical, the fact that he's strangling her for a solid minute, just watching her struggle for breath, and then he just quickly pulls the knife out, runs it by her throat, and then she just dies. No blood, nothing, just like, okay. So
I think that shows...
part of the, $300 budget. We don't have a blood budget, so we'll just do it quick and let her slide down, and he can just go on about his murderous business.
Maybe.
But yeah, the Bob one's definitely just, that's a top tier kill for any horror film as far as just the visualization of it.
Yeah, I think the only blood effect in the whole film that's not just dead bodies kind of lathering on a little bright red 70s blood is where he cuts Laurie Strode's arm right before she falls. I think you do see a little slash with the little trick knife. I think that's the only one in the whole film.
Yeah. Oh, and before John goes, I just want to point out that for this to be a top tier movie for Jay, it's kind of ironic because Michael does kill 2 dogs.
So that's in my notes. I'm like, that's the biggest knock in the entire movie is the animal killing. Like, I think, we probably all had discussions about this. You can murder as many people as you want in whatever manner you want. I'm cool with it. But if you murder any type of animal, I'm going to be pissed. And when I do my ratings that I do, if an animal dies, that costs you half a star, half a space, man. I'm sorry. It does. I don't like to see it. At least this one, it wasn't like, too bad. Like you hear the dog barking, then the dog yelps, then he's just holding the dog. But yeah, it's still up there for me, but damn you for killing those dogs.
What's the second dog? That's the only dog kill I remember.
The first one Loomis finds when they go to the house.
Oh yeah,
maybe it's a skunk.
He was eating. Yeah.
He got hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A man wouldn't do this
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it doesn't show it, it's better for me, but yeah.
Well, at least it's not Cannibal Holocaust and they didn't really kill a dog.
That's another episode. Another episode of my most hated movie of all time.
Oh God.
All right, John, what was your favorite kill out of all the Halloween kills?
I wouldn't say the kill itself. Like, I would definitely shadow and agree with what you all said with the Annie thing, especially Kellen. With it's kind of comical, but I do like the setup and the post of Annie's kill, because I think the Annie kill, you're watching the scene, you see her try to open the door is locked, she goes back, the door's unlocked, she gets in, and of course it's foggy in the car. That's kind of creepy. And to me, the creepiest thing about that, and actually to me the creepiest scene in the film, is after that, when Tommy's playing around trying to scare Lindsay. He's in the window with the curtain, and the sci-fi music is playing on the movie. It's not The Thing, it's the other movie. And you see Michael walking with Annie's body in the front lawn, walking into the house, and he's just watching it. That's, to this day, when I watch that, I'm like, that's just freaking terrifying. Like, that part always gets me.
Do you know what that other movie was, and what famous actor who was in that film? Famous comedy actor.
Okay, pause. TJ, you also know the answer to this question.
Yes.
So we discussed earlier, how do we pick our next episode?
Oh, is that it?
And I would say each week, one of us will ask the others a question, and whoever answers the question correctly first gets to pick next week. So obviously you already know the answer. So I'm going to read the question right now and get it out of the way. You cannot raise your hand.
I disqualify myself.
You cannot raise your hand until the question is done. So
it's gonna be John, because I have no idea.
Well, he was struggling there for a second. So we see. So what was the movie that they were watching when he came into the house?
I do not know the movie. I know the actor.
Kellen is Googling it because he's looking down.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. No,
All right, TJ, just let him have it.
It's Forbidden Planet from 1954 with a very young, svelte Leslie Nielsen.
What about the
Oh,
thing
hold
from
on,
outer
hold on.
space?
TJ, you cut out. I couldn't hear what you were saying. Was it Forbidden Planet?
Yeah, it's Forbidden Planet. The thing from outer space is the second one. The first one is Forbidden Planet.
All right, so TJ will be picking what movie we watch for the next episode. So congratulations.
No pressure.
No pressure. No Cannibal Holocaust.
Was that really your question already?
It was. Since you went ahead and dropped it, I was like, let's just say.
Well, is what
I figured. I figured like if we were all doing like, even though we've all seen the movie 100 times, we're still probably doing research this week leading up to us doing this. I'm like, any question I ask, somebody's gonna know. So,
to be fair, until I watched a YouTube video of 10 facts you didn't know about Halloween last night, I wouldn't have known that. Yeah,
that's something that's always been in my head. I don't know why. Like, if you take me to like even middle school math or algebra, I'm screwed. But like, I can remember that. I can tell you almost the entire track list of the Scream 3 soundtrack. Like, there's things that are in my head that shouldn't be there, and there's things that are not in my head that should be there. That's just how I operate.
Same. I can't do sixth grade math. Once you get letters involved, I'm done.
So we'll start to wrap things up on this inaugural episode. You guys have anything else you want to cover from Halloween?
One thing I did want to bring up from the Taking Shape book. I know some of you probably aware of it or read it. There's a lot of cool stuff about Halloween 78. One of the things that I initially did not know related to the films was apparently there was always the rumor that Halloween 78, the concept started from Black Christmas. And apparently originally the film Black Christmas, Bob Clark directed it. Bob Clark also directed A Christmas Story, Porky's, a lot of famous comedies. And the story is that he wanted to do a sequel to Black Christmas. And if he was going to do it, he was going to set it in the suburbs and have it on Halloween night. And years later, John Carpenter, Irwin Yablon did this film. So it's always been interesting to me to know that, because it made me wonder whose idea did this come from originally. Was it Bob Clark? Was it just happenstance? Was it coincidence? I don't know. Just thought that was fascinating. I don't know if you guys had ever read about that.
I did.
You mentioned that it was, you've read the book. I haven't read the book. If you see, I have a lot of books behind me, and I haven't read hardly any of them. I just like to collect books, but that was in the back of my mind somehow. So I have heard that or read that somewhere. Yeah.
Actually, later, after Halloween come out, Bob Clark actually did see the film, and people were immediately making, especially the killer point of view, tracking shots and stuff. They're very borrowed. Um, it wasn't anything that Dario Argento and Italian giallo filmmakers weren't doing several years before. So, I mean, everybody was borrowing that kind of perspective at that time. But he said, no, John Carpenter's thing is a work of its own, and I give it my highest blessing. So he wasn't pissed about it. So
Yeah.
Awesome. I have one last, before we move on to the next section, one last interesting fact I just found out yesterday that kind of blew my mind. Sheriff Brackett, Annie's dad, who's actually in Halloween Kills, when the Evil Dies Tonight business starts up. The actor was only, Charles Cyphers, I think, was only 39. And Annie, who played his daughter at the time, who was married to Tommy Lee Wallace, who played the Shape in some scenes and then directed Halloween 3, she was 29. So he would have had to get her mother pregnant when he was 9.
That makes, you said he was 39?
He was 39. Annie, his daughter, was 29.
Wow. That's crazy. Halloween 2, like, not Halloween 2, but Halloween also, part of the reason I think it's so iconic too is like when you think of theme songs, that's probably definitely top 5, if not the first one. Like that one was great. I'm a big fan of The Fog, The Exorcist, and all those. But Halloween's theme is like you play that, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. And apparently he also started when he created it. It was just something his dad, who was an orchestra director, taught him. It's 4/3 time, and he started as percussion before he got in with the piano. It's just that weird time signature.
Yeah, and like I'm not musically inclined at all, but even I can pull that off to a degree on a piano.
Yeah,
it's no big deal.
Talking about that, since we're talking about little quick facts, just throw one out there that the score is credited to the Bowling Green Philharmonic.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no Bowling Green Philharmonic. That was just John Carpenter and some musical friends. But that ties into more of the ties to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where he grew up. Mm-hmm. Smith Grove is where the sanitarium's at, reference to Kentucky. He mentions Russellville. Loomis mentions Russellville. I knew a guy from Russellville, Kentucky. And then along that same thing, Deborah Hill's partly credited with helping John Carpenter write the movie. And so Haddonfield is actually where she grew up, in Haddonfield, New Jersey. So
cool. Nice. Which makes me think of just a couple fun facts with names. So Sam Loomis is the name of, I believe it's the detective in the original Psycho, of which Jamie Lee Curtis is obviously the daughter of the lead actress who gets killed in the shower scene. Michael Myers was actually the name of a European producer that helped get this film made and marketed in Europe. And Laurie Strode was actually the name of a girl that John Carpenter dated in high school.
The one that got away.
The one that got away.
How about literally?
His final girl. All right. Well, this was fun. Obviously, it's our first episode. We're going to have some kinks and some bugs and some flow issues, but we'll get through that. I think this is going to be fun. Like I was telling Kellen, I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. That's why you haven't seen a Weirdos episode in a long time, because it's fun, but it's kind of exhausting too, especially when you need to do research. And we were going somewhere else where you should just be able to plug and play, but we couldn't at times. And it's just like, man, I'm just going to stay home. But being on Zoom is much better for me because I can be at home and I can still be with you guys at the same time. So I look forward to the rest of these episodes. Halloween's right around the corner, so thank you guys for listening. TJ, you will be picking our next movie. I thought about this too, which we could always talk about in the group text, but hell, we're here. If it's a movie that isn't streaming, or one of us owns it, just have a party and just all come over and drink some beers and watch it together.
We could do that.
I honestly already know the next movie I'm going to pick whenever it's my turn, and it is only streaming on Tubi, and I own it, and it is very low budget, but it's a lot of fun. And that's another thing too. Like we start with Halloween, which is obviously God tier number one. Next time's not going to be Friday the 13th. It's not going to be Nightmare. Like we're going to rotate this in and out with blockbusters, with middle grade, low budget, like movies that we love, movies that we know that you love, and movies that are just going to be fun to talk about.
So it would be too cheap to just do the follow-up with Halloween 2. We need something to switch it up, right? Is that what we're thinking?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in my notes too. I'm like, what's your favorite Halloween timeline? Like out of all the Halloween timelines.
It's 1 to 7, which is H2O for me.
Same. So everybody shits on H2O. H2O is fantastic. And I got two words for you. Josh Hartnett.
Yeah. I like
You
1
mean
and
the
2.
actor who ever pulled off bed hair in every single role that he ever had and nobody questioned it?
I tried to duplicate that, but it's hard for a fat kid to look cool with bedhead. It just looks like I have bedhead and I didn't wash my hair.
Every single character he plays, bed hair.
Yeah.
I haven't attempted bed hair since 2007.
I think you're a pretty big proponent for H2O as well, right?
Yeah, I love H2O. That ending it works. I mean, as a film, it wasn't perfect. Originally, John Carpenter was supposed to do it, so it didn't work out the way they wanted it to. But I mean, that movie, if it would have stayed, it would have been the definitive end for Michael. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I think for me, 1 and 2 is a great just combo on Halloween night. That's probably my favorite. But yeah, I would probably agree. I mean, I think ideally 1, 2, and then H2O was kind of a fun way to watch the series.
Yeah, because at that point in time, nobody thought Jamie Lee Curtis, who had already went legit. She'd been in True Lies with Schwarzenegger, Trading Places. She hadn't done a horror film since Halloween 2. I don't think. Not an official horror film. I think she did, when did she do Road Games?
She did Prom Night.
That was in 80, though, and that was in Canada.
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe Road Games. Maybe.
When was Fright Train?
That's Terror Train. Yeah, that was also
Train.
1980. Yeah, 1980 was a big year for her. So she did 5 horror films in a row. She did Halloween in 78. She did... I think Prom Night was next. I forget if Prom Night or Terror Train, but they were both in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a few months apart, I think.
And then she did was The Fog 79 or 80?
The Fog was 1980.
It was 80. So Fog was her next thing, and she'd already cut her hair, obviously, by then. And then it was Halloween 2, and that was her 5. And then she said, I did 5. I don't want to be a Scream Queen. She was the inaugural Scream Queen for the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, she had already cut her hair and was starting Trading Places when they went back to film the TV cut scenes for Halloween 1 after they'd wrapped on Halloween 2. So if you notice in the scenes that they put in the TV cut, if you ever watch it, she's got a towel on her head because she had the Trading Places hair already.
Mm-hmm.
Kellen, what's your favorite timeline with the Halloween films? You like 1, 2, H2O? You like 1 through 7? You like? I mean, I think we can all agree that Rob Zombie's the superior overall, but Scary Moon Zombie is a stripper. They're good.
So my thing is, and I think we briefly touched on this in the text chat. So I never liked her being his sister.
Yeah.
I never, for me, it kind of took a little bit away from him. It became less about him just being a psychopathic killer to more of him trying to finish something. As far as, he killed one sister, well, now I've got to get the other sister. There's a familial bond. And I mean, if you're gonna cut the movies up, then I do agree 1, 2, and H2O, that's all you need. You can throw everything else away. But for me, like the whole mythos that made the first Halloween so special, as far as your antagonist just killing to kill. There's no rhyme or reason. This is a 6-year-old boy who realizes that he has a thirst for murder. Even Loomis talks about, he spent 8 years trying to reform him and 7 years trying to make sure that he never got out because he basically sees nothing but evil in this child. And then he escapes, and just happenstance, Lori crosses his path while she's dropping the keys off for her dad at the house, who's a real estate agent. They're selling the house. He's selling the house, so she's dropping the keys off, and he happens to see her and fixates on this is my next kill. And through getting to her, he kills other people close to her. You know, so that to me kind of what makes Michael Myers so special is he's evil. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And then when you add that, oh, by the way, it's his sister, it kind of takes a little bit away from me. But yeah, if we're gonna just have to pick, one, part A, part B, because I mean the second one happens right at the same night, so it's basically just makes an extension of the same movie, and then H2O.
I still think like I would have loved to have seen what John Carpenter, what direction he went if he could make it all like an anthology series of movies like he wanted to do.
Well, he tried to get rid of Michael Myers. That's why there's Season of the Witch.
And I love Season of the Witch. I love
it was just supposed to be anthology movies titled Halloween, and Michael Myers was just such a popular character he was forced to bring it back.
Yeah. I think it would have worked if they never made Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would be revered for sure.
Yeah.
Which I think Halloween 2 is the best straight up horror sequel there is, because it picks up literally the moment after. I have to watch those together on Halloween just to kind of like get the whole story, you know?
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. I think this is a newer like film, but like Creep and Creep 2, I think is the perfect. Like Creep 2 is the perfect complement to Creep. If you've never seen them, they're on Netflix.
Yeah,
Creep is good. I like it.
So
I've never seen Creep 2.
Creep, you don't
Creep
expect sequels to necessarily be better, and Creep was like I loved every second of it, and then I'm like, oh, a sequel, and then I watched. I'm like, I loved every second of this one too. Like it just took it up a notch, like it's supposed to do.
If we're talking modern, though, the remake of it in the 2 chapters, that's a pretty superior 1-2 shot.
Yeah, that one didn't get as much love as it should have, I don't think, but I thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. But we'll save all that for other episodes. Again, thanks for listening to us. We're the Church, Horror Sanctum. You can follow us on Facebook.
Are we not going to give our ratings, or is it just we buried the lead?
I think we kind of did our ratings already, right? Like, so for me, Halloween, I would give it like 5 spacemen out of 5. Like it's perfect for me.
So nothing for the dogs.
I'll give that one the exception.
Okay. Wow.
That doesn't happen very often, but I will do it.
What about you, John?
I mean, it's not as good as Resurrection, but
I mean, come on.
No. I would say honestly, rewatching it, I mean, 9 out of 10. I would say 8.5, 9 out of 10. I can find little things in it now at 30. What am I, 30? I don't even know how old I am, 37, that I didn't notice as a
baby
kid.
Of
but,
the group.
I mean, I would say 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Keelan?
Wow, so I guess scales don't matter. We've got 5 stars and
a 10
on a 1 to 10 scale. I kind of like John's 1 to 10 though. It gives me a little more wiggle room to kind of play around with some of the numbers. But I'm kind of right there with John. I think 8.5, leaning more towards 9 as far as, I mean, it's just beginning to end a solid film. I mean, like you said, you can nitpick all you want, but as far as just a complete beginning, middle, end movie, it's done so well. The suspense builds up perfectly. The simplicity of some of it is just what makes it such a charming horror film. And then it's one of the most iconic horror villains of all time. So yeah, I think 8.5, close to 9.
And we revisit it every year. Like, I watch it every year.
It's a holiday staple. It's like A Christmas Story or Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. It's
what a comparison.
It's something you watch every year. It's not even questioned. I mean, I watch The Sandlot every summer and Halloween every fall.
Yeah, same.
Definitely.
Well, I already buried the lead. It's my favorite horror film, so it's a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever your scale. 5
like a
jack-o'-lanterns out of 5 jack-o'-lanterns. And yeah, there's things wrong with it. There's technical things. I mean, there's a giant wrench that breaks the glass, and that opening scene with the nurse is very obvious if you're looking for it. And, there's John Carpenter cigarette smoke going all over the place in this movie. And if you're looking for it,
that's just ambiance.
it's just ambiance.
That's what you do on the budget.
Yeah.
That's the mood.
Well, that's what you do
Debate now.
24/7 if you're John Carpenter, apparently. But yeah, it's my favorite. So I'm not that like fanboyish with most movies, but this one it's the God tier, like Jay says.
But I'm the only one wearing a shirt. No one else.
I have that same shirt.
Kellen was dressed for the occasion.
Did you get that at Walmart?
I did today.
I got last
there
year.
he is.
That's a Halloween 2 shirt, though,
Yes.
sir.
Shut up! I didn't show the 2 part. All right, Michael has joined us as we sign off. So again, we're the church group on Facebook. It is a private group now because cousins and aunties and stuff were liking things. They were like, this is getting kind of weird. So we changed it to a private group. But if you're friends with any of us, and you probably are since you're listening to this, add us as a friend and we will add you to this group. You can search for the group. We're going to have a YouTube channel going. We'll be on all the major podcast networks. We'll probably start Instagram soon too. So just keep an eye out for that. If you get on YouTube, it's just the Church Horror Sanctum podcast. It's long, but it's easy. So we'll see what TJ has in store for us next time. And, thanks for listening. And we'll see you over on Facebook. I'm Jay, TJ, John, and Michael. And thank you guys for listening.
Keep it spooky, guys.
Later.
Keep it spoopy.